What is up, everyone? It is another beautiful day right here in Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah.
We're in episode 18 with Josh Wiseman, also known as JT Wise Guy. JT is a videographer, photographer, creative director. He's worked with some of the biggest brands and companies in the world, such as Jeep, Blake Shelton, Men's Health Magazine, Google, just to name a few. Josh is also a professional drummer, musician, athlete, author, you name it. The guy has done everything there is to do. Also, he's a big advocate for mental health, and we're going to talk about that. Josh, thanks so much for being the pod, man.
Thank you so much for having me. We also have a special guest, my cat.
There you go.
Say hello to the internet. Hello.
There you go, little cat. I had to do a little intro like you do it, but obviously, like you have to do it. Like let's do it right now. Let's.
All right. What is up, everyone? It is another beautiful day right here in Austin, Texas, and I am on the Content Lab podcast with my good buddy Carlos.
Dude, I think I'm gonna cut that clip right there, and I'm just gonna start it every day. That's gonna be like every time I start a pod, I'm just gonna start with that clip.
I'll do a dry one of I'll do a dry one without the. Or actually, I could say in wherever you're at. Where are you at? Pensacola?
Pensacola, Florida, which is it's a top like northwest of Florida, literally on the border with Alabama.
Yeah, I grew up in Florida, so.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that. I guess we'll get to know that eventually. So yeah, let's talk about that. Like, tell me about your life growing up, and leading up to like how you found content creation.
Yeah. So growing up, only child to a single parent. Me and my mom are best friends. Anyone who knows me at all, I talk about my mom and everything and anything that I do, whether it's interviews, podcasts, articles, writing, any sort of shit like that. So my mom and I, best friends, grew up with her, born in California, Central California area. Lived there for 8 years, moved to Florida, Northeast Florida by Jacksonville. And from there, it just kind of, I guess you can say it all kind of began in regards to me really going after what I wanted to in life and just trying to figure it out every single day, just like everyone else does, having to like fend for myself. Not to say my mom wasn't there by any means, but, she had to work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, make sure that, we had a roof over our head, food in our mouth, and, that I could go to whatever, sports camps that I needed to go to, and had a nice birthday, nice Christmas, so on and so forth. Having to grow up pretty quick, fending for myself and just trying to figure it out. In most cases, we grew up, I wouldn't say poor, but with not much at all. So having to kind of DIY a lot of things and just figure it out. Essentially, if there was a phrase of my life, it would more or less, other than another beautiful day, it's another beautiful day, it would be, just figuring it out constantly, always being a work in progress. So yeah, I played basketball growing up. Bounced around from Florida to Oregon, back to Florida to Georgia, back to Florida in my high school and middle school years, and was able to play basketball in college, and then I went overseas and played basketball in Germany professionally. So that was cool. It wasn't until years later that I stopped playing basketball that I picked up music, which is a common interest that you and I both share, which I didn't know, which is pretty rad. But yeah, so I picked up music and I started a YouTube channel, and this had to have been 10-ish, maybe 11 years ago, probably 10 years ago. And so I started doing covers, things like that, and started playing live shows, cut a couple albums, did like some small, I guess you would just call it gigging. I wouldn't necessarily call it touring, but, up and down the West Coast a little bit. This is when I lived in Reno, Nevada. And so I did that, and throughout that entire process, I was recording how to write a song, structure, post-production, mixing, mastering, live performances, so on and so forth. And I guess that, other than when I was younger, filming like old skate videos and, shit with my friends on like a camcorder, I think that more or less was like my first real introduction to videography and content creation in general, having to film the video, edit the video, upload it, rinse and repeat as the years went on. So from there, fast forward a few years later after that, and I'd stopped playing music. I went through a really big fitness transformation. I used to be like 180 pounds, and for those of you watching, I am 6'5", so
It's pretty much a
very
Viking, real life Viking.
I appreciate that. I need to learn how to braid my hair better, so I can pull off some of those hairstyles for that. But yeah, so yeah, throughout that fitness transformation, it was, when I feel like everybody was starting a supplement company, starting an apparel brand. First Form was really big. And then obviously like all of your bodybuilding brands, Cellucor, like, what is it? Not BSN. Anyway, neither here nor there. But so I was making a big fitness transformation, was documenting that whole thing. And I was like, well, I like brands. I feel like I can do these sorts of things. So I started my own apparel brand, failed miserably the first time. I was living in Texas, and then I was living in San Antonio previously. And this had to have been maybe 8 years ago, somewhere around there, 8, almost 9 years ago. So that failed miserably. I went back home to live with my mom. And on the very long, 24-ish hour drive back to my mom's place in Reno, I was like, all right, I can do this again. I feel like I've learned a lot from my mistakes and can, essentially turn a positive or a negative into a positive. So I got back to Reno, and with me and my mom being so close, I thought it was like a sure thing that I would be able to just stay with her in the time that, I got back. And she's like, well, you got a week and then you need to figure it out. And I was like,
How old were you?
Love, Mom, this is not the time for that shit. I need to be able to stay with you. I think I was like 22, maybe 23. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, you got a week. You can watch the dogs, and then you can find a place to live. And it just so happened at that time, my buddy Will, which he'll watch this, I should have sent this to him, but this is a huge part of my story and his story as well. He's one of my best friends. He lives in Reno, and he is in the military, was in the reserves then, and was like working at GNC and like working at the gym, always trying to get a lift in, so on and so forth. And I called him and I was like, man, do you have like a couch or an extra bed or something? He's like, I'm glad you asked, because I'm getting an apartment, and you're welcome to just like crash as long as you want. So through launching that second apparel brand, I was sleeping on Will's floor on an air mattress for about 10, honestly, like probably almost a year, I think. I was working 3 jobs on top of trying to launch this brand. So I would wake up at about 4 o'clock. If I even went to bed the night before, I would wake up at about 4 o'clock. I would go work at FedEx, loading trucks or unloading trucks. And then I would leave there. I would go to the gym and work out. And then I would shower. And then I had a job working the desk at the gym, so I would stay there. And then what I would do is I would leave there and go work at the restaurant at 5 o'clock until about 10 o'clock at night. And then I would come home and I would hand print shirts. I would design the stuff. I was fulfilling orders, shipping, customer service. Everyone gets it. Anyone in content creation or that runs a small business knows that you kind of wear all the hats. So I was doing that. And the big kicker to this is that I didn't have a car. I was riding a bicycle about 30 miles every single day between all the jobs. And I would go home and Will would be like on the couch playing Madden or something. And then he would check out about like 11 o'clock or something, because he had to wake up early to go to GNC. And then I would just stay up and just, print shirts. I'd put my headphones on, and then he would, a lot of mornings he would wake up and I would still be standing there at the edge of the desk. I had a 1-1 screen printing press. So I like burned all the screens myself. I had to like learn how to do all of those things. So when I had that brand, it was fucking hard, man. Like there was a lot of nights and a lot of times where, man, we would just sit there and just, man, what are we doing? How do we? And
we're talking that you were 22 years old. Like it's not your typical like hustle. Like, like 20 still like partying and like worrying about some more things. You are like handling 3 jobs, trying to make it, which it's kind of like, I like everything that, like it leads up to, because obviously like now you do what you get to, you do what you love, right? Every day, pretty much. Like,
of course. Yeah.
And all those success stories of people like starting young and being like, like I want to do this, I want to make it, I'll do whatever it takes. Like if it's working 3 jobs, living with my parents, then moving with my friend and like sleeping on the couch, like that's what it takes.
Oh,
And
absolutely, man.
and I was thinking just what Charles McCoy Carlito, he was saying, jack of all trades. That's so true. Like whenever we're talking, I mean, I met you at Waterpalooza. Like since then, we've been talking every once in a while, and like
Yep.
you're like, yeah, I was a touring musician. I have a book, this, that. I'm like, dude, what the heck? Like, how old are you? I feel like you were like 50 years old, but like you've done a lot in 30 years of your life. I'm guessing you're around 30.
Yeah, I'm 31.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's just like such a crazy ride. And believe it or not, it gets crazier in regards to like my origin story for those of you superhero Marvel fans out there. But yeah, so like I launched that and I'll kind of, fast forward.
What was the name of that second, not the first one that failed, the second one that you were just talking about?
It was called DGL Apparel, which stood for Dream, Grind, Live. That's what that stood for. And yeah, I mean, essentially it was just kind of the premise of my life where, and, for a lot of people, it's very applicable in regards to you dream of something that, this goal that may seem really outlandish to you. And the grind essentially is all of that hard work that it takes, whatever that may be, whether it's, the sacrifices, the late nights, the early mornings, burning the candle at both ends, like losing friends, gaining friends, so on and so forth. I mean, that's a very lengthy list of things, but eventually you'll kind of put in that work and you'll get to live that life that you've always imagined for yourself. And it still holds true. I mean, I have it tattooed on me, like it says it right here, but then like this was the logo to my company.
Nice. And it can sound cliche too, like, yeah, you have to wake up early, work and all that, but it in reality it is like you have to make a lot of sacrifices to get where you want to be.
No, I completely agree. And that's something that I feel like in this day and age, a lot of people aren't willing to do, but it's 100% necessary. Yeah, so we did that, and through that process of the company, fast forwarding a little bit, I had picked up some athletes, was gaining a little traction, was getting my clothing in the hands of, people that actually enjoyed wearing it, which was really cool. And then from that point, I had a camera, obviously, the entire time. And at this point in time, I had picked up my first actual camera, and it was a Canon T3i, like a Rebel T3i. And I think I had like a kit lens and obviously like a nifty 50, a 51.8. It's the lens that everyone goes for. And so I had one of those, and I started filming like narrative videos like behind the scenes of the company. I would do athlete spots and, take photos and things like that. So this is where I started to get, more knowledge and more reps in for photography as well as videography. So for me, it was learning how to like work with a brand, even though it was my own, telling the story, driving whatever narrative with visuals, whether that be photo, video, graphic design, so on and so forth. And then from there, I started doing things pretty well. Like the first, I don't know, it was like 6 or 7 drops sold out, which was really cool. And I did that for a couple years. And one thing a lot of people don't know about me is I was engaged previously. So I moved for that chick up to Illinois, just across the water from St. Louis. And I was kind of running the company, kind of not, was falling into like dad life, I guess. She had a beautiful two-year-old girl. So of course, like your priorities change. So I picked up a job at Guitar Center and, was doing that and decided, I started having people ask me, can you take family photos? Can you do a wedding here and there? Or I have a small business that I need photographed in some capacity. So I started doing that while also working at Guitar Center. And then when the engagement fell through, one of my athletes lived here in Austin. And she was like, yo, you should come down. Me and my boyfriend will show you a good time. I think you'll really love the city. You'll fit in, but you'll stand out. And I was like, yeah, I'm down for that. I really just kind of need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. Am I going to move back home? Am I going to, stay up here and try and figure it out? What am I going to do? Am I going to sell all my shit and live in a van or go international? Like, I just really had no inclination of what I needed to do. so I came down to Austin, visited her and her dude, and within the first 10 days of me being here, I think I was here for a couple weeks, I signed contracts with 2 gyms on retainer to be their shooter, and then she wanted a full-time shooter. So I moved here 3 weeks later. I drove back to my mom's place, had the difficult conversation that we had seemingly had 50 times before that with me saying, "Hey mom, I love you. Like I've been here for like 6 months, but like I got to get the fuck out of here and go get after it and go like chase this dream, whatever it is." And at that point in time, I didn't know what it was. And then when I moved to Austin, 7-ish years ago, roughly, that's where things kind of began and my career really started because I went full time in photo video at that point, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite the story, and that's only 24 years old. That was 7 years ago. Let's talk about some of the people here asking questions. Enrique says, you said you've learned a lot from your first failure with the brand. What was the most important thing you've learned? I'm guessing specifically like talking about like failure, like your first failure, and then from there kind of like saying, hey, I'm gonna try this again. I learned a lot.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I learned was to not be afraid to ask for help. I think that's really not necessarily undervalued, but I think that's underutilized in a sense of everyone has a little bit of an ego. You have to feed your ego from time to time. So I think for me, I've always been a curious George, and I've always been really like inquisitive and would ask questions all the time. Like never like why. Like when I was a really little kid, my mom would always tell me that I would ask why all the time because I just wanted an explanation for something. So I think that not being afraid to ask for help, but I think I don't think I can really define like the one most important thing. I think a lot of life is just trial and error. And with anything, content creation, finding out like what settings work, what settings don't work, what lighting works, so audio, so on and so forth. I think that's honestly probably the biggest thing is you just got to get out and try things, figure out what works, figure out what doesn't work, take a mental note or write it down, type it out. And then the next time you do whatever that thing is, you're more conditioned to succeed and maybe get a little bit further along before you're like knocked down a couple pegs because life has a way of doing that. But I think that's just the biggest thing. It's just getting out and trying things, not being afraid to fail is probably the biggest thing that I've learned. If I were to put some sort of definition on that one thing, it would just be don't be afraid to get out and try things and step out of your comfort zone, seek that discomfort, and really just put yourself in a vulnerable place to where, it scares the shit out of you. And everyone's heard that, if it doesn't scare you, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough or one of those phrases.
Yeah. I feel like I'm kind of like that too. I love trying shit that scares me. Like this podcast, like right now I feel pretty comfortable doing it. I mean, we're on episode 18. I have a lot of fun talking to, it's pretty much like catching up with friends nowadays.
Of course.
But at the beginning, it was freaking nerve wracking. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I started. I'm like, I need to do some shit that's going to get me out of my comfort zone. And I mean, for me talking in front of a camera, I mean, it wasn't comfortable. I mean, I feel like it's still not super comfortable, but I love doing it. I have a lot of fun. And you were talking about like trying new stuff and until you find something. From what I understand, I think you told me that you after Austin, you moved to Nashville to be a musician, right? Like you went to be like a tour musician with a band or something.
Yeah. So I played drums in Nashville. Played in a band called Only Highway. It's a country band based out of Florida. Actually, went to high school with like all the guys that were in it, and then I got a phone call one night at like midnight from who was my best friend in high school. His name is Trey Orberg, or Jonathan is his first name. We just call him Trey. And he called me and it was like midnight, and I was like, "Is everything okay? Like, is your wife okay? Is your family okay? Are your kids okay? What's going on?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, we just finished up a show." He's like, "Do you still have a kit?" And I was like, "No, I've had a drum kit in like 8 years." And he was just like, "All right, that's fine. We can get you one." He's like, "How soon can you get to Nashville?" And I was like, what is going on right now? And he was just like, "Yeah, so I'm watching my drummer pack up all of his stuff right now. And what I'm going to ask of you is something that I only feel confident that you could handle. And I was like, oh man. And I was like, well, realistically, I can be in Nashville like tomorrow. And he was like, okay. He's like, we play on Wednesday. This was a Sunday night. I'll like set the timeline for you. So it's a Sunday night at midnight. So technically Monday morning. So I was like, I can be there tomorrow. He's like, cool. We play Wednesday. I'll send you the set list. And I was like, whoa, did you talk to the rest of the band about this? And
Do
he's
they
like,
know?
yeah, he's like, I'll call you back. And I was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, talk to Tyler. So there's 3 brothers in the band, Trey, Tyler, Tanner. Tyler is if you just look at it like this, like Tyler's the front man, Trey plays bass and sings and everything else. And then Tanner is the baby and he sings harmonies as well. So like together you get like this brother family, like all their voices mesh well and just beautiful, beautiful harmonies. So anyway, so he hangs up the phone, calls me back 30 seconds later, and he's like, pack your bags, you're coming to Nashville. And I was like, what? And he's like, yep, send me all the flight details and everything, and we'll book it. And I was just like, dude, what did you say? He's like, I literally walked inside and looked at Tyler and said, I got the drummer situation figured out. And everyone was like, okay, what's up? And he just looked at him and said, Josh is coming. And he looked at me, he goes, Josh Wiseman? And he goes, yep. And he goes, well, tell him to come on then. And I haven't seen these guys in 11 years, 10 years since I like graduated high school. So it was like crazy that I get a phone call, haven't seen them in 10 years. And then I'm on a flight the next day to go to Nashville with all of my stuff because on Saturday I was flying to, or Friday night, no, it was Saturday. I was flying to Spain for work. So I was going to be gone. And I told him, I was like, I can play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then just stay up all night on Friday and then just go work. Yeah. And if you guys need anything when I get back, let me know. So anyway, so I get there, there's waterworks. We're all like freaking out that how different we all look and stuff like that. So we all go out, get super drunk, just have a good time, like whatever, just catch up. I mean, 10 years of catching up between the 4 of us, and it was great. So wake up the next morning. I woke up super early, went to the gym, came back to the house. Trey was awake, and I was like, oh, you're up pretty early for someone who passed out in the front yard last night. And he was like, oh, yeah, that happens from time to time. Just like give me a bottle of water and just leave me there.
I'll be fine.
I'll make my way inside. Just don't lock the door. I was like, gosh, all right, shit. All right. So he's like, change of plans. We play tonight. And I was like, excuse me?
Was it like more of a cover band or they had their originals?
Yeah, they had originals too.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like we would cover like tons of stuff, take requests, all that jazz. So I was like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, we play tonight. And I was just like, oh my God, wake everyone up now. We need to practice. And he's like, I sent you the set list. And I looked at it, fucking 85 songs on it. And I looked at him just like, you've got to be out of your mind right now. And he's just like, yes, this is why I called you, because one of just like your life and your ability to like see a task at hand and just be like, all right, whatever I got to do, like this is going to happen. So we spent the next 7 hours practicing, running through 80 plus songs. My hands were swollen. I had like blisters all over from not playing in so long and this and that. And I was like, dude, I'm going to be hurting tomorrow for sure. So I had about an hour and a half to eat, cry, change, figure out if I wanted to just skip town or not, or if I really wanted to go through with this. And so we went and we loaded in, and we got about 45 seconds into the first song, and the entire band was just kind of like looking at each other. And then Trey looked at me and he just goes, and then from then on played Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, stayed up all night on Friday, flew to Spain, blah, 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 did work over there, then came back, and he called me. He's like, we want you to play for us full time for like the foreseeable future. And I was like, shit, looks like I'm moving to Nashville then. So then I like packed up all my stuff and just like
nice
drove over there. Yeah. And did that for like a year. Yeah, probably like a year over there. So it was crazy, man. It was a really cool experience. And I met a lot of really great people, and it fed into my photography and videography too, because, you know, you're in a town.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, do you keep doing all your content creation stuff while you were also in the band?
Yep. Yeah, I was pulling double duty. Would try and wake up no later than like 9 or 10, even though we would get home sometimes at like 4 a.m. And I would go to the gym, And then what I would do is I'd try and set up meetings throughout the day, whether it was like writers rounds, artists, album shoots, or like cover art shoots, things like that with artists and bands, and would try and line up those meetings throughout the day. And then just be like, hey, if you want to come watch us play, we play here tonight at this time. Come say what's up. I'll buy you a drink, yada, yada, yada. Go from there and just trying to build and cultivate those relationships. So yeah, I did double duty with photo video for like a year, basically. And then the last 6 months that I was there, it was like 2 or 3 of those months was I quit the band because they picked up a full-time guy. And then I was doing photo video full-time there in Nashville, and then COVID hit. And then, I mean, everyone knows how that fucking
yeah.
goes, so.
Before we keep going with the conversation, we have Dan Ball in the chat, Digital Lens.
Dan.
We have Steven says, hi, my babies. You both are amazing. I'm the biggest fan of both of your work and both of your hairs. I mean, JT has a much better hair than me, but I appreciate the compliment. We have Frank. Do you remember Frank? Frank Cruz?
I do.
That's Force Media. We have
he
Jay.
Moved to Georgia, I think, didn't he?
What do you say?
He moved to Georgia, right? Frank?
He did. Yeah. I went to visit him about like a month ago. Great dude. We have Jordan, always watching, always supporting. So everybody who's watching live, please make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget about it. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments right there, and we'll read them. JT, let's talk about more. Let's dive in more into content creation, because you've worked with some big brands, right? You've worked with Google, Blake Shelton, musician, Jeep, big brands. And one of the questions that people usually ask is like, how do you, obviously, like, you need this, some people have the skills, right? But they don't land the big gigs. Like what do you do to either reach out to them, or like, what was the process for you to end up getting, I don't know, a commercial with Jeep?
Honestly, it's a lot of luck, man. I mean, there's so many talented people out here, with a camera, people far superior to myself. I mean, I don't really think I know shit, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, but it's like a lot of luck. And the way that I approach reaching out to clients, whether they're like super top tier clients or not, a lot of times is to just kind of do my research, do my homework, check their website, maybe fill out a contact form, look for a marketing director, so on and so forth. And then just kind of stay in their ear a little bit, not necessarily be pesky and like send an email every day, but just be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. Here's my portfolio. I have some great ideas. I feel like I can benefit you in this way, or I feel like your website may need some sprucing up. That's what I mean when I say like, do your homework. Like if you were to, I try and encourage people that are new into this to just walk in, see if you can make like $500 in a weekend by walking around your like local area, or driving, to like a, major metro area or whatever, and walking into places that would help you create things that you want to create. Let's say you're like a foodie or like a big coffee snob or something like that, and you want to photograph those sorts of things. Go and walk around and make it a point to go into like 10 coffee shops, and you walk in, hey, is your manager here? Yes, no, maybe so. All right, when are they in? I'll come back. But when you do get the manager, you just say, hi, my name is Josh. I'm a content creator, or I'm a videographer and photographer. I was looking through your guys' Instagram. That's doing your homework. I was looking through your guys' Instagram, and I feel like with what I'm seeing here doesn't match what I'm seeing on here. So I was wondering if maybe you'd be interested in, photos and videos, or if there's any way that we could possibly work together. I would love to deliver you X, Y, and Z. And you just kind of go from there, and like the flow of the conversation.
Yeah.
When you're first starting out.
That's the scariest part too, right? For most people, just going to the business and talking to it. But in reality, that's kind of like step one of what you need to potentially be somebody that just clients are reaching out to you, right? Like to the point that it's just gonna be word of mouth. So you start there, like reaching out to people, seeking for the opportunity. And then after that, it's going to be kind of like, hey, that somebody else is going to ask the owner, like, hey, who's doing your Instagram?
Of course.
Like, that looks dope. And then it's, hey, this guy, JT, he lives right down,
Yep. No, and that's what it is. And that's a big part. I was literally just talking to So I've been interviewing this girl to work for me, and I was having this exact conversation with her last week, and she's awesome. She lives in Cleveland. And I was telling her the same thing. I was like, what's going to happen is you're going to do a really good job, and you're going to underpromise and overdeliver, and you're going to do a really good job. And these people who have friends, they are going to see it, and then they're going to ask, and they're going to be like, who's doing this? This looks great. Or another approach is, if you don't want to just kind of sit around and wait patiently for that to happen, is when they're like, hey, we love this stuff, this is great, and their feedback is really positive from whoever it is you're shooting, you say, if you know anybody else who would be interested in this, please send them my information or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, in my experience, they're like, actually, fucking Joe Blow down the street owns this other business, and I think he would like love it or whatever. Let me call him real quick, or here's his information, tell him I sent you, so on and so forth. And it just kind of snowballs from there. And I think, in regards to like larger companies, it's kind of the same approach. The harder thing with larger companies, if it's just kind of like a cold call per se, or like a cold email, the most difficult part is just getting in contact with somebody who can make the decisions. And again, that just goes back to just kind of doing your due diligence and doing your homework and going on their website. Every company in existence basically has a contact somewhere, whether it's just like a generic, like, hey, here's this shit, just send a contact form asking for another contact for a marketing director or something, or somebody like that. And then talk to everybody. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just, I'm an ambivert. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's someone who like thrives in a social setting, but also likes their alone time to be able to recharge, so on and so forth. And, whenever I'm out, I love talking to people. I love meeting people. Part of that is big in like a creative career, because you're constantly like telling other people's stories, making other people look good, making them feel good about themselves. So getting to know those people and kind of creating, cultivating, and watering those relationships is going to help you to create better content, because they're going to feel more comfortable around you at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So so it's just like, talking to people, everyone knows somebody. You never know like who is going to, you're like, oh, my dad is the CEO of this company, or like my cousin works for this and he knows this person. Let me give you his number. He can put you in contact with so on and so forth, and this person and that person. And so for me, that's how like I landed the Jeep thing.
Yeah.
It was like somebody knew somebody, and then they're like, are you open to traveling? I was like, duh, of course I am. They're just like, well, how does Alaska sound? I was like, fuck yeah, Alaska sounds incredible. And it was sick. So it just like dropped us in Alaska with a Jeep, and we're just like, here you go. If you wreck it, we'll give you another one.
Yeah. Another thing that I've noticed doing this podcast is that a lot of people find a lot of their clients at the CrossFit gym. And if you think about it, it's such a great way to land a client, because people, they get to know you for who you are, right? Like you're working out and stuff, not in like a job setting where you're gonna be professional and stuff like that. So they get to know you like that, and they're at the same time, like people that go to a CrossFit gym, we're talking, it's a lot of people are CEOs, owners of
Yeah, it's
businesses,
very
stuff like that,
diverse.
because it's
Yeah.
not it's not cheap, right? Like we're talking about you're paying from $150 a month or more to go
Oh yeah.
to a gym. So it's a good spot to to find clients. And I've gotten a lot of my clients at the gym. They just, hey, what do you do for work? Oh yeah, like I do content creation, videography. Oh, okay, I have, I just opened up an
Yeah.
insurance agency. Like, can you do some work for me? And it just kind of like, it just comes like that without even like asking or anything.
Yeah. No, and that's, it's, I think at the end of the day, it's all sales at the end of the day. There's a
Yeah.
supply and there's a demand. Like, you know what I mean? They have a demand for content creation, and you're able to supply that, satiate those needs, and make sure that they're taken care of. I think one of the biggest things, if it was like a piece of advice to give anybody who's looking to start this, who are maybe already doing this full time or wanting to go full time, is that you're going to close the most deals and gain the most clients if you are checking back in with them. Like if you're doubling back and like, pinging them, every couple weeks if they haven't hit you back, and like checking back in, staying at the top of mind for them, I think that's the biggest thing, because most people, they'll send one email and then they won't double back and follow up on it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So like
very important.
closing is in the following up for sure, because there's a lot of people, life happens. Everyone gets busy. Maybe we are on our phones all the time. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're checking Instagram. Maybe we're not. Emails, so on and so forth. I'm horrible when it comes to emails. I like emails slip through the cracks with me all the time. That's why I'm just like, here's my phone number. This is the most direct way to reach me. I guarantee you I will always respond to you if you text me, call me, FaceTime, any of that shit. So following up is huge when it comes to this kind of stuff, because if they're sitting around and they're getting hundreds of emails, chances are if you're sending an email, a million other people are sending emails. So it's like, okay, I need to stay relevant in this person's mind and their thought process in the kind of chain of command when it comes to, okay, it's got to go up the chain, down the chain, then it gets to you, and then it goes up the chain, down the chain again before somebody really truly can make a decision at a larger company. So I think the biggest thing is just, like I said, following up, staying at the top of mind.
For sure.
They're going to be like, wait, we have this project. Oh, this fucking Josh Wiseman guy keeps sending me an email. Let's give him a shot and see what he can do. And that's where the relationship starts.
Absolutely.
So, yep.
Let's talk about your book.
Sure.
It's pretty I remember, like, we've talked a while, but you never mentioned the book. It was kind of like you posted on the gram, like somebody tagged you something like, oh, excellent book by Josh or something like that. And I was like, dude, you have a book too? Like, come on, like, how many things can you do? So tell me about the process of deciding, like, hey, I'm going to write a book. And also let's talk about what the book is about, because that's something that you are pretty open to talk about, which is mental health.
Oh, of course, man. Yeah. So I decided to write a book a couple years ago. Actually, give me one second. Let me just make sure my camera.
Let's plug it, and also tell people where they can find it.
Yeah. So the book's called Thinker: Diaries of an Emotional Man. I have a bookshelf right here, and I'm actually trying to see if I have it on here, and I do.
Let's find it.
I have the only hardcover copy of my book. That's my face. That's a little awkward. Put it on this side. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's me. This is the book, Thinker: Diaries of an Emotional Man. And yeah, essentially this book was written during COVID, and I've always wanted to write a book, but I didn't really know what I wanted to write a book about. People say my life is like semi-interesting. Whatever. It's all relative. And so I thought about maybe doing like some sort of biographical something or other and just talk about my life and struggles and yada, yada, yada. But it just didn't really feel right. And then I think when COVID hit, it was kind of a really easy decision to make to write this book, which the book is about. Essentially, this book is tackles things like intimacy, vulnerability, mental health, toxic masculinity, and kind of how society has conditioned men to, and it's not just women conditioning men to feel this way. It's other dudes making other dudes feel like they can't share their feelings, or that they have to have like this super, super hyper masculine energy and persona to like go through society, and like they're not allowed to cry and like be a man, suck it up, rub some dirt on it, all sorts of shit like that. So this kind of breaks down that narrative, and how it's broken down is inside of the book is my own personal journal entries from some journals that I've kept over prior to writing this, probably like 4 or 5 years. So I went through, picked out some of my favorites, took names out, restructured a couple things, and I was able to format it into this. And I don't know, man. It was a really cool experience, and obviously a very vulnerable one, because I'm literally taking my own most intimate thoughts and feelings, good, bad, in between, melancholy, like every single thing that you can possibly feel is in this book. And I was able to format it, like I said, into a book. I also have, I think there's like 56 or something like that of some of my favorite photos I've ever taken in the book. So it's a coffee table style book. And I encourage you, if you do decide to pick one of these up, to set it somewhere, bedside table, on your coffee table, somewhere where you're going to see it and like kind of interact in that area every single day. buy a journal or just write in this. Like there's a lot of space on a lot of the pages to be able to write in it. And you just pick it up and you just do like a 1-a-day thing. Pick it up, open it to a random page. Let's see what happens here. Open it to oh, that's a bigger passage. Open it to a random page. Boom. There we go. So there's a photo. Here's a little passage here. You read it, then you reflect on it. You write about it. If it triggers something, great. If it doesn't, that's great too. Maybe tomorrow's the day. And you just kind of go through the entire thing. And it's written to, I think the biggest takeaway from the book is to take a much more introspective look at yourself, your feelings, your emotions, how you react to things, how you process. Are you a suppressor? Are you an oversharer? Are you extremely closed off? Or are you just like overflowing with vulnerability to yourself and the people around you? And I think that's the biggest thing for me over the years with like therapy and stuff like that, is just like understanding that the way that you talk to yourself is really important. So for me, like negative self-talk has been a huge part of my life, just from being an athlete. And not necessarily that I was like demeaned by any means, but to me, everyone says they want to be the best. And with that comes a certain level of like stress and anxiety in regards to just being like, you know what, you fucking suck. Like, you're not good at this. Or like, comparison is the thief of joy. I say that all the time. And that's a quote that a lot of people know, but it's true, but waking up every single day and learning how to treat yourself, I think at the end of the day is really important. And how you talk to yourself is a huge part of that. So
I agree.
book.
All right, everybody, you gotta get the book now. We have Dan Bull in the comments saying that he already ordered it, so he's gonna read it soon.
Thanks, Dan. Let me know what you think, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Talking about vulnerability and like opening up and speaking up, do you think that's something that's really helped your mental health? Just being more open to share your journey, your ideas, your thoughts, the way you feel?
Can you repeat that?
I'm saying, do you think that's something that's really helped your mental health? Just being more open about sharing your ideas, your feelings.
Yeah, no, of course, man. And I mean, it's not easy. You never want to be the person that's just like looked at as overly emotional or anything like that. But at the same time, you don't want to just bottle it all up. I mean, that's why I write personally. Like, I love writing. And no one, I think maybe like one person ever has caught me like doing it. But when I go to events like Wadapalooza or Granite or anything like that, and it's like out of town and I'm gone for like a few days, I always have a journal with me in my big Pelican case. And before the events happen every single day, and basically almost before any staff gets there, because I just kind of like the peace and quiet and no music and nothing going on, I'll go and sit somewhere in the arena, in the rafters, on the field somewhere, and I'll go sit and I'll just take like 10 or 15 minutes in the morning with like a cup of coffee by myself and just write. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. So for me, writing has been like a huge help in regards to my mental health and just, I guess, the overall, just the overall, I guess, status of where I'm at emotionally. Writing has been huge. And better out than in, like my grandma always used to say that, better out than in. And I think that holds true. Therapy is a huge thing. I'm a huge proponent for therapy. It's great. I love my therapist. She's awesome. And writing is another big thing. It doesn't have, and that's the thing too, is when I try and talk to people about writing, they think it has to be like this big grandiose thing that's very well articulated and makes sense. No, it doesn't have to make sense. It can be one word. It can just be like word vomit and just like phrases, or it's not hard to say like, write the date on it and then just say like, I woke up today, I slept like shit, I have a lot of stuff to do today, I really don't want to do this stuff, but I know that I have to. That's it. Like, it doesn't have to be, or you can just write like, fuck, this sucks, or anything, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, like I said, this big grandiose, write a book, be a really good author, or have to like fill pages and pages and pages. Like most of the entries that are in this book are not most of them, but a lot of them are like one-liners or small passages, kind of like what you saw there, that are only, like maybe a few sentences. But at the time, I felt a certain way and felt better and generally feel better and feel like I'm in a better place mentally, emotionally, physically, especially, because that's one of the things people are just like, oh, it's mental, it's mental, it's mental. But no, like
Mm.
that can have some traumatic effects on your body as well. And so for me, writing, sharing in any capacity, this kind of stuff, just
Yeah.
trying to kind of open other people's eyes and just be like, look, it's cool if you cry as a dude. And it's cool if you share your feelings with somebody, whether that be a partner, a friend, your family. You shouldn't feel any less than a person or emasculated for sharing who you are and how you feel. And I will die by that.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's important. Like, I try to be, I try to find somebody I feel comfortable with to talk about things when I'm feeling, sad and stuff. I try not to keep it to myself, because I feel like that's when when it's like harder for me, right? When I keep stuff to myself, if I'm not having a good day, and I just like, "Oh, I'm not gonna tell anybody," that it makes the day worse. The moment I talk to somebody, I'm like random friend, like, hey, I'm not feeling good today. Let's talk. Like, it's kind of like seeking for help, but not asking for help. It's just kind of like, hey, I want
Yeah,
to like share what I'm feeling and share my thoughts today, and it helps me a lot. And I love when I see stuff. I remember when I first started following you, and I start seeing how like open you are to share,
yeah,
like your, like, hey, like, I've had a couple of rough days, and my mental health hasn't been like where I want it to be, and you're like very open and vulnerable about it. And I
yeah.
love that kind of stuff because I feel like we all go through shit. Like, there's nobody in
Oh,
the world that it's like, hey, yeah, like I have every week, it's great, every day is perfect. And
yeah.
that's what we are. That's what we see a lot in social media, right? We see people traveling and having a blast, just working out and creating content. And we always show the good things. We always show the happy moments.
The
We
highlight
don't
reel.
the highlight. Yeah, that's in reality, that's our Instagram life. Our social media life is just highlight reels of whenever we're happy and when life is perfect. And
Yeah,
that can also play a big role because people don't understand. They're like, damn, everybody's having a great time and everybody seems to be happy. Every relationship seems to be great. They had flowers and great wedding, whatever. And that's why I think it's important to have people like you and people like I had Michael Dalton too, like people that just share their emotions and they're like very vulnerable and like open up to speak to anybody about mental health.
yeah, man. No, I definitely agree with you there in regards to having a handful of people, or even not, even just like one person it can
Mhm.
be, to kind of confide in and just be a sounding board, essentially. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be, or like you said, you're not just like asking for help or begging for help. Sometimes you just need someone to listen for you to
Mm.
get out all the shit that's up here and just put it out there. And then you kind of get that sigh of relief where you're just like, okay, that felt good to like talk about in any capacity with anyone. And I have a couple of buddies like that. Nick, I love you. Nicky Rizzles, I think he was on here. I don't know if he's still on here, but he was. And then also my buddy Trent, who lives in Colorado, who was a former student of mine, actually, which is awesome. And him and I have been like really good friends ever since and have kind of held each other accountable in a lot of different ways. I went through a really hard time last year. He also was going through a really hard time last year. And, it's nice to have kind of a constant check-in and accountability partner to just be like, hey, I'm just checking in. I'm making sure you're doing okay. How's everything between the ears?
For
And,
sure.
that's always a good thing.
And to be honest, that's something I've learned more in like the last couple of years. It's like, like just being a little like it's okay to feel shit
Of course.
and you just share your thoughts. But yeah. It also I feel like the industry that we're at also helps a lot to like feel like good. Like, I don't know, it for me, like creating content just makes me like it's just such a passion that it just makes me like it helps me a lot, like
Yeah.
if I'm not having a good day, I'm gonna try to create some stuff or take some photos. And I don't know, it's kind of like creating some type of like expression through your work, right?
Yeah, dude, and that's what it is.
Showing emotions through your work. That's what I was
Yeah,
trying to say.
and that's, that's how that's what we like to call style. That's your style. If you're like a really dark person, and you're probably going to shoot like dark art or photography or video or really moody stuff and things like that. If you're like light and bright and happy and bubbly, and then that's going to reflect in your art. At the end of the day, it's all subjective, but I think everyone kind of sprinkles their own style and personality on their art, and I think it definitely comes through with that kind of stuff.
I was doing some research on your Instagram, like checking some of your work, just kind of, like I try not to prepare questions. I told you, like, I always try to just keep it as a conversation. I try not to like know too much about you either. That way, I have actual questions. But I like to scroll, and I saw a post that you said these pictures were taken. I mean, I don't know exactly the caption, but it's something like these pictures were taken during the toughest or one of the toughest times of my life, but it also resulted in some of the best work I've ever created.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. It was actually called the Vulnerability series.
Okay.
Yeah, so I absolutely got my heart ripped out by this girl like many years ago, and after that, I just went to like a super dark place. Pretty much cut like all socials, locked myself in my apartment, lights off, like drinking fucking tons of like whiskey and beer, and just like getting blackout every single day by myself, and just like really, it was really tough, man. It was super difficult. And I think through all of that, like it said in the post, I did create some really dark, like real things that actually there's some of them in the book. Some of that series, almost all of that series is in the book. All of the photos that I created and videos that I created on the other side, and like during all of that stuff, every single one has a poem that goes with it. And then every single one had like a piece of art essentially that went with it, whether that was a photo, a video, an animation, something like that. But it all was centered around that. It was all centered around transparency was one of them. Connection was one of them. My biggest fear was another one. Just like overall being vulnerable was another one, even though that was kind of the larger picture. But yeah, man, I mean, I think everyone who's in the creative field understands, like, it all comes in waves, it ebbs and flows, and you can scroll back on your own Instagram and look and just be like, yeah, like this looks different than it does now. Like 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years, 5 years ago, like this work, your skill set's getting better, and your style's getting better, but you can kind of look at it and it's a snapshot, no pun intended. It's a snapshot of like where you were in your life at that moment. And like your art reflects where you were in your life at that point in time. Because I can definitely see it in my work, like 100%. There's like big blocks of my work that's like the colors are different, the content itself, like whatever the subject is different, the landscapes are different, the companies are different, the energy is different, the people are different, like everything is different. And I feel like it's just like this never-ending constant evolution of self in regards to being an artist, being a creator, how you view the world, your perspective. And the phrase is beauty is in the eye of the beholder has taken like such a bigger, not stance, it's like it has so much more meaning now, I guess, because yeah, like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and it's just like, all right, cool. But then the more you think about it, you're just like, yeah, perspective is everything, and everyone's got a different perspective. And I think that coming through via photography, videography is a large part of like self-expression and like what you're feeling. Because like you said, like you're having a bad day, you're going to pick up your camera, you're going to go shoot something. You might not be able to talk about the things that you're feeling. You know what I mean? Like maybe you can't articulate your thoughts well. Maybe you don't really have anybody to talk to, but you can get those feelings and emotions out and not bottle them up via picking up a camera and going out and shooting something, creating something based around how you feel.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, that's just kind of what we're all doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's why I always say it's like, I refer a lot of our work as art, which people like, art, what do you mean? It's just art. It's like a painting, like painters, whenever they paint something, it's how they feel. You see like the evolution of some of the biggest names, some of the biggest artists, and it's depending on like where they're at in life. Like you can see a more moody like painting, or happier, or like I don't know, like more. You know what I mean? Just kind of like just the emotions. It's like them showing the emotions through their art, and that's what content creation. I feel like it's something we need to do more too. Like show us as real art, and not like now with Instagram and all that, just like post just to get like the likes and the followers. It's more like
Yeah.
I feel like we should be using the platform more to. I mean, again, if you want to use the platform to just get a big I don't know, big following, whatever, that's fine. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. No, I
I
completely
think
agree.
I think it's really cool when people use the platform just to show their skills and their art.
Yeah. No,
And
man. I mean, that's,
something that pretty cool question that I got the other day from Carly Johnson, Carly Creative.
yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are talking about kind of like similar stuff, like about like content creation and all that. And she asked me, "Would you create content if nobody was watching it?" And I was
Oh, yeah.
like, yeah, I was like, that's a good question to ask all around like the industry, because I feel like some people get caught up, and I'm not gonna lie, I probably did too at some point. Like now I'm starting to like find myself more like, okay, this is
Yeah.
what I want to do. But sometimes we get caught up in like, oh, I'm gonna post this because I know it's gonna get a lot of likes, it's gonna get a lot of followers,
Yeah.
and but like, would you create content if nobody was watching? That's like a very important question.
Oh,
Like that's kind of like, if you're passionate about it, like you're creating content because you're just, that's what you like to do, that's what you like to showcase. It doesn't matter if somebody's watching or not.
yeah, man. And I think we've all fallen victim to the Instagram effect,
Mm,
essentially. Do it for the gram. Majority of photographers shoot vertical, not horizontal, because they want that 4:5 crop, or 16:9 or whatever, or 9:16. And I think we've all like done that. I do it all the time. Like I've done it so many times, and then like I get back home, I'm just like, fuck, man. Like I didn't get the one photo I wanted in landscape because I was too worried about putting it on fucking Instagram, and now
mm,
I don't have it. And maybe that moment is fleeting, and like I'll never get it back or something like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, for me, not to say like you were asking me that question, but yeah, like I would definitely create, even if no one was watching. And I give a fuck less about Instagram now. Like I'm on it because I have to be on it for my career, but I hate it. I hate all social platforms, even though like I have to be on it. And that's
mm,
just kind of the double-edged sword between that and like all the changes that are happening, so on and so forth. Dude, like my YouTube channel is dry as fuck, but some of my best work is on it. And like it's not like I'm getting millions of views or hundreds of thousands of plays or like any of that stuff. Like I'll be lucky if I scrape by like 200 or 300, and I don't care. Like that's like I showed one of my friends a video last night. That's like a memorial video for my best friend that died, and I was just like, yeah, this to this day is one of probably my top 5 things I've ever created, and it's only got like 500 views on it. Like I give a fuck less. I created it because I needed to express something: hurt, anger, fucking pain, like confusion, like just not understanding why, his life would be taken so soon. And I needed to express that and get that out into a video for me, regardless if anyone watched it or not. And I think for me over the years, I've done a lot of that. Like I haven't been doing a lot of it lately, which I've also talked about recently with some really good friends of mine who are also content creators. And I've just been like, I need to, I posted the other day, I said, like, is anyone else feeling uninspired and like unmotivated?
mm. That's
And I mean, a resounding yes by like a ton of people. And then I had some people message me and just be like, yeah, I'm feeling X, Y, and Z because of this way. So there was like an open dialogue between me and like a handful of people talking about that kind of stuff. And they kind of got a little vulnerable with like how they feel and what they do to kind of combat that, ebb and flow of being a content creator. Because a lot of people think it's all fucking sunshines and rainbows, but it's fucking lonely, man. Like
Mm.
this is a lonely career. And even though you're around a lot of people doing a lot of like cool shit in most cases, like you go, you do the thing, and you meet these people, and then guess what? Maybe you never see these people again. Maybe you never talk to them again. You go home, you sit in front of a computer for fucking ever, and
It's all
like
you.
yeah, it's just you and your thoughts and like your fucking animals or a bottle of something or coffee or like whatever it is, man. It's like, I think for me, that's, it's really frustrating when people just assume that like this life is the best thing ever, I guess, and not to like diminish the fact that yeah, I'm very fortunate, and so are you, and like all the other content creators, um, especially people that are watching this now. You know, a lot of us are very like thankful and grateful that we're able to do what we do, and a lot of us do it full time. Some people it's like a side job, this and that. But I mean, this has been my life for fuck almost a decade now, which is crazy to
Hmm.
even think of. And I think, kind of going back to the main point of like creating if no one's watching, man, like if I wasn't doing this, I honestly don't really know what I would be doing. And I just
Same.
feel like, yeah, I just feel like, you know, it it's not always what it seems. And again, like you said, social media is a highlight reel, but 90% of my life is spent sitting right here at this desk,
Mhm.
and the other 10% is out doing cool things. And yeah, that comes at a cost, man. You know?
It's true, and I find that the most when I get very unmotivated or uninspired is whenever I start feeling like everything gets too much of a routine, right? Like I have some clients that, like they need weekly stuff for, I don't know, social media and all that and editing, and when I start just creating for a job, kind of like just it's not fun anymore. I feel like whenever I start doing it as a routine, like something that I have to do instead of something that I'm like passionate I get to do, right? So when I
Yeah.
start feeling unmotivated, I'm like, hey, what's happening? Like, why are you feeling this way? And this thing I always find is that I got to a point that it was a job and a routine. Like, hey, this is what I have to do to make money. But in reality, it's like it's something I get to do, and I make money because I
Yeah.
get
No.
to do this, and it's pretty cool. And that's when I go back and I'm like, okay, like I gotta do different things. Like I'm gonna change my schedule a little bit. Instead of working, mornings, I'm gonna switch it up. And instead of doing that, I'm gonna use mornings to people do different things. You say you like writing, so like that could be a good thing, or
Yeah.
playing some music. Just kind of like switching up the routine. Working out helps me a lot, but it's kind of like just changing my mindset from being something I have to do to make money to I
Yeah.
get to do. It's like I
Absolutely.
just get to do this, and it's fucking cool. Like we get to travel, and yes, it's true. Like it's a very lonely thing, but it's what we chose, and some of us probably were not prepared that we have to do that much, that much editing. As you say, like people like when I come back from a trip, they're like, "Dude, that's so cool. You were out of town for 3 weeks," and I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, it's not what you think. 4 canceled flights, sleeping
Oh
in an
yeah, I
airport,
saw that. That was a fucking nightmare,
and then
man.
coming back straight into grinding the edits and dealing with our stuff. It just, I mean, but honestly, dude, I couldn't think of anything else I would like to do other than stuff that we do right now, right? And
Hmm.
also like what you said, it's so cool to go to these events and just catch up with people. Like when I saw you at Granite, it was like, dude, what's up? Like it's so cool. And then people we have here in the comments, we have Dan Ball, um, Charles McCoy, which is I call him Carlito. Compete everybody, like you see them in competitions. It's just so cool to be with people that you share like similar, like they understand, like you understand where I'm at right now. I understand where
Of
you're at
course.
right now.
Yeah.
So and that's another one of the reasons why I wanted to do a podcast too, that it's specifically targeting content creators, right? People that create content, people like you, photographers, videographers. It can be people that anything that's like in the creative space, and people are like, hey, you should expand and get athletes. You're gonna get more views, more followers if you get
Yeah.
athletes on the podcast. But in reality, like I don't have any desire to have athletes, because this is not what we're doing. It I wanted to do something, create a space that other content creators can listen to people like you and be like, this dude, like I understand where he's at right now,
Yeah.
and and like the things that he's saying, like I feel it, like shit, yeah,
Yeah.
this is a lonely job. And and just kind of like learn from it, right? And I'm sure some people might reach out to you after this podcast, be like, dude, I listened to it, really cool, and then ask you a question or two, and then that person, goes home learning something new, and
Of
that's
course.
kind of like the goal, right?
Yeah, no, man. Like it's always been like a very humbling experience to, you know, tell my story or part of it, or however much we have time for it, and talk about it. And just like you said, people listening to this are looking at this saying, I am not alone in feeling the way that I feel after hearing that this person has done these things, been through this shit, is better because of it, and has this like renewed sense of self, moving forward. And I think that's really important. And again, that's part of the reason why I love telling my story. And I am so open and vulnerable about things,
Mm.
because a lot of people can look at my life and say like, oh, you're just like gallivanting around the world doing all this cool shit. You must be like the happiest dude on the planet. No, man, that's what fucking depression looks like. Depression looks like standing at the top of a mountain in Spain and seeing like the most gorgeous sunset you've ever seen in your life, and like not being excited about it. And you're just like, I could fucking end it all right here. And like that's a pretty morbid thing to say, but it's fucking true. Like I had like one of the darkest years of my life last year, and thankfully I had like a handful of people to like pull me out of that. And you know, everything is just, it's all like a sleight of hand. It's like, hey, look at this cool shiny thing over here, while like something else is happening down here, and like no one really knows what to believe in a lot of cases. But there's a saying out there. It's, if you assume, then you make an ass out of you and me, which I always thought was really funny. I love like wordplay and stuff like that. But no, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if one person hears my story, or your story, or any other creator's story, or anyone's, anything for that matter, and just understands like you're not alone in what you're going through, um, whatever that may be. Could be good, could be bad, could be really
Mm.
fucking bad. Um, we're all kind of in it together at the end of the day. And I think just, again, like full circle moment, just like not being afraid to ask for help, whatever that looks like, even if it is just somebody to talk to and just somebody to like listen to you and be a sounding board. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do. It's just understand that you are not alone in feeling the way that you feel, and it does get better.
I love it, dude. I really hope a lot of people listen to this episode and they can, because I know what you're saying. It's gonna, a lot of people are gonna like feel it. Like they're gonna be like, that's where I'm at right now, and like I can make some changes to feel better. We have Vincent saying, I've
Hey,
had some of my favorite talks
yeah,
ever with that sexy Icelandic dude this year. He's one of the best humans.
love you, big dog. Yeah, no, he's one of the people too. When I
Yeah.
was in Vegas recently, him and I sat. I mean, we just kind of shot the shit for basically all day. Took his dog for walks and went and grabbed some food and beers, and like talked about like some really really deep shit in life, and being a content creator, and how lonely it is, and like anxiety and depression, and like not wanting to get out of bed every single day, and like all sorts of stuff. And I mean, that's, I'm very thankful for
Absolutely.
that
If
other
if
sexy.
anybody has any questions for JT, drop them right now. I'm checking my Instagram. Some people ask you some stuff. I'm gonna pick.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone
Um,
would ask me any questions at all. You posted that, and I was like, "It's in for a rude awakening
hey,
when no one
people
asks
are
it."
asking. Most people are asking about your hair.
Oh, what are they asking? Let's answer some of those.
Terrence said, "How do you get your hair so smooth and silky? What's your favorite Eagles song?"
I fucking knew she was gonna ask that. Actually, I don't know what my favorite Eagles song is. I think if Taryn watches this, or if she does. So Taryn is a really good friend of mine. We share a bond over music, and we'll just kick it and like have a few drinks and like listen to records. And I introduced her to the Eagles documentary. So the opening song of the Eagles documentary is probably what she's expecting me to say. But honestly, um, I think my favorite Eagle song is probably, I might get the name wrong. I think it's one of these nights. Anyway, and in regards to hair, I never heat I never heat my hair, so I don't straighten it. Um, I don't brush it after I shower. I let it air dry. It's not good to brush your hair when it's wet because it's weak. And then also I use like high quality salon products. But most of the time you can get Joico, which is a really good brand. You can get that kind of stuff at majority of major metro like grocery stores. HEB here in Texas sells it. Or you can go to like a Sally's or any sort of beauty store, or just go to your stylist and be like, hey, get me the sauce, and they'll get you stuff. It's going to be very expensive, but
Nice.
it's not too bad.
I'm gonna pick two more questions. The next one is actually from Vincent that we just had in the chat. It
Perfect.
says, "Who inspires you? Who inspires you that you personally know?"
Ooh, who inspires me that I personally know? Favorite Eagles song going back, One of These Nights. That's the name of the song. Thought it was Those Nights, but it's One of These Nights. Who inspires me that I personally know? I mean, I think it's a pretty obvious answer. I have a few, but my mom for sure is like the biggest inspiration in my life. Just what she was able to do growing up, working 2 and 3 jobs, to absolutely working her fingers to the bone, burning the candle at both ends, and not just that, but raising a child on top of it, I think is one of the most inspiring things ever. And I think I actually did a video on this, and it talks about creativity and how creative my mom had to get on a different level to be able to raise me and work 3 jobs and never miss a basketball game and make sure that, I had a nice birthday, a nice Christmas, so on and so forth. I think, the level of creativity that comes with that is very inspiring. And I will forever be in debt to my mother for the things that she's done for me. And I think I don't know, other creators definitely inspire me, like yourself, Vincent, Nick, my buddy Trent, just like a handful of people that I see their work, I see they're out there getting after it, whether it's great, like the best photo I've ever seen or video I've ever seen, or it's just something that tells a good story. I think for me, that kind of stuff is always inspiring from other creators. And another person who inspires me is Steffi Cohen. I don't know if she'll watch this. I'll send it to her. But she's a 25-time world record holder, power lifter, lives in Miami. Do you know Steffi?
Fun fact, she's from my hometown. We went to high schools like 5 minutes away, and we have a lot of friends in common. Venezuela.
Venezuela?
Yep.
Nice. Hell yeah. So Steffi is a good friend of mine. I love her to death. She's one of the kindest hearted people, but also is an absolute fucking animal when it comes to just like life and the way that she attacks things. Wake up, choose violence. That's her catchphrase, and I love it. And I think that's something that we can all kind of take into every day. And it's not necessarily like violence in a destructive way, but it's just like approaching life with this burning passion and desire to be better day after day after day after day,
and better at new things too, like what you were talking about earlier, like doing things that are like new for you. Like, yep. I mean, when she chose powerlifting, before that she was doing CrossFit. Before CrossFit she was like a badass soccer player. Yep. And after breaking 20 something world records, being the best one at powerlifting, deadlifting like over 500 pounds at 120 pounds, she's like, I'm gonna be a professional boxer. That's what she's doing now.
That's what she's doing, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it. It's been cool. So I would say that for the most part, my mom, other creatives who are like people that I know, like yourself, and like I said, Vinny and Nick, and other people, and then Steffi for sure is like some pretty inspirational people.
And the last question I'm gonna pick comes from Dawn Wiseman.
That's my fucking mom. Let's hear it.
She says, what job was your biggest challenge and why?
What job was my biggest challenge and why? Damn, that's a good question, Mom. I think owning a business is pretty fucking hard, honestly. This career that I'm in now undoubtedly is probably the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And I've went from living on a couch on my buddy's floor, launching a business. I've been homeless and living in a 10 by 12 office inside of a gym. When I first got started here, like a year after I moved to Austin to do this full time, that happened. countless days of calling my mom, crying, or just like out of frustration because like I just seemingly can't like get the gears to click and like get the wheels to turn over. Um, never feeling good enough, imposter syndrome, the loneliness that comes behind doing this. Uh, Dude, I'm like getting emotional right now thinking about it. Man, it's been like, dude, it's been like such a hard road and like such a hard journey. And, I think like I'm just so thankful and grateful for like the people that I have in my corner. And I like never thought in a fucking million years that I would ever be doing what I'm doing and be able to like create something and cultivate something that I can like finally call my own. It feels so fucking good. And it's tough, man. This is a tough job and this is a tough life, and life in general is just, pretty fucking hard sometimes. And I think a lot of people get caught up in like social media and what everyone else is doing, and they don't take care of themselves and they don't take care of the people that are around them. And before you know it, you fucking go to sleep and never wake up. And it's, yeah, this job is the hardest thing I've ever done for sure.
Dude, JT, thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts,
Uh,
ideas, being so vulnerable with everybody watching. I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
yeah, yeah,
I love episodes, and episodes that I learn a lot new things, and also episodes that I can take a lot and apply it into my personal life. So I really appreciate you being that person that today taught me something new. And like that's another reason why I do this kind of episodes, this kind of like work podcast, just to you know meet new people, sure, and all that, but in reality just take away, absorb a lot of the things that people like you and other guests that I've had say, and just kind of like apply it in my personal life and learn, be better. And like we're all here chasing the same goals, right?
absolutely, man. Yeah, no, I
So I
really
really I
appreciate
really appreciate your time. And like hopefully we can run it back, episode season 2 with
that.
JT
Yeah, man.
JT Wise
That'd be
Guy.
great. That'd be great, man. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. Anything I can ever do to help the cause or share my story and try and inspire and motivate people. I think at the end of the day, that's the legacy that I want to leave behind. So I appreciate you enabling me to do that.
Awesome, dude. All right, everybody, if you want to find JT, you can find his Instagram at, you can see it on the screen right there if you're watching on YouTube, JT Wise Guy. You can also find his YouTube channel. I think it's the same. Is it the same? Wait, JT Wise Guy?
Yeah, everything is
Okay.
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, JT Wise Guy across all platforms.
If you listen to this episode, you like to make sure you hit him with a comment, say, thanks for sharing your thoughts. If you like it too, just let me know. I really, really appreciate everybody that's been reaching out on the DMs and saying that you've enjoyed the episode. It helps me to find motivation and like keep doing this, because I know some of these episodes are helping people
Absolutely.
either with their mental health or with their content creation, finding new ideas, and just being a better photographer or videographer. So that really means a lot when you guys reach out. JT, before we cut it, what's next for JT Wiseman?
Um, well, I think, well, next thing, immediate futures. I'm flying to Arizona on Thursday. Wait, that's tomorrow. Should probably pack for that. Yeah, that's how my life goes in most cases. Yeah, going to Arizona for the 4th of July. Coming back, doing some stuff with 8 Beer, which
Mhm.
still need to send you some of that. I haven't forgot, I promise. I did, but there's some right here with your name on it. I'm gonna figure out how to do that. Doing some stuff with 8 Beer. Doing some stuff with Junk, which is always a good time. And then I have like a couple big events later on this year, just like in July. But other than that, man, just getting out on the boat, surfing, trying to get better, and just trying to figure this shit out, just like everyone else is.
Love it, dude. Hope to see you soon.
Yes, sir.
Everybody, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It's growing slowly, but it's growing. And you can follow our social media accounts too. It's at Content Lab Podcast. That's it. JT, anything else you want to add on before we cut it?
No, man, yeah, I always say, no, I'm good. And then I just start talking. But no, thanks to everyone who watched this. Really appreciate it. I know Carlos appreciates it as well. Like he said, it's growing slow, but it's still growing. Any forward progress is progress nonetheless. And yeah, if anyone ever needs anything, don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out. If you're ever in Austin, let me know. Let's go hang out, grab a beer, go surfing, sweat our asses off undoubtedly. But yeah, I'll
Let's
see you
go.
guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day and week.